Lyndall, for you left South Africa when you were still going to Zimbabwe when you were 3. I mean, can you imagine you have no memory of being here? Most of your childhood memories would be of being in other countries and not of South Africa. Does it bother you at all when you came back as an adult?
Strange enough, one of the things that I was always wondering is whether I would feel at home when I got back to South Africa. Because in all the countries where I lived, I very quickly felt at home. It wasn't difficult to adjust. I tried as much as possible to read about, South African traditions, South African culture. So always, even when I was graduating in Cuba, I was wearing a Xhosa attire because I always wanted to have that link with South Africa. And then I found that, when I came back, it was like I had never left. I adjusted, very quickly. I remember that my late husband then was representing the ANC at the UN just before, you're 93. So I came home 92. So when I was telling him, no, I'm in Illof Street, and I caught a bus and I went there, and he said, but the buses are for whites only. Where did you? So I said, no, it's not like that anymore.
It's a catch up, man. This has to change.
Yes. So I really, adjusted quite well. But I think it's also because the ANC also kept people very updated with everything. We had, can't remember what was those news cards that they had. So we're always reading on. So, even when I came home, it was like, okay.
Like you've just been on a long holiday and you came back home.
Yes.
So, and you still had that South Africanness. So, Mom Gertrude, I'd like to know, I mean, we spoke about the picnics and the food that you would take in other countries. And other than the comparisons between, how they shone the stoep and how the children back home would shine the stoep. And so how did you manage to keep that South Africanness still instilled in your family?
They were still young, and they were. Once you go to some of these countries, you have to learn in the language of that country. So they did all their education in Czech. From Czech, they went to Tanzanian language. But I had to make sure that one day when we get home, they should know how to communicate with the people who are at home. So I made it a point that every day after their school, I should teach them English.
Because you were a teacher. Yeah. So you were a teacher, so it was
quite easy.
It was easy for you, yeah.
And then the other thing, my husband, because he was a trade unionist, when he went to London or to any other English-speaking countries, he would bring us books. So I used those books to teach them English from A. So they caught up very well, and they didn't have a problem. And
reminding them that they were South African every day? How did you do that?
They knew that they were South Africans, and they didn't even have anybody to tell them. They knew it themselves. I think at one stage they even wanted to know what they ate in Africa, and quite a number of things that they do not do that we do.
Lyndall, I mean, growing up, yes, and you had all these pictures of, where you've come from in your head, painted by your parents and your uncles and aunties as well, the extended family, making your own memories wherever you were in those countries as a little girl, as a teenager. I mean, teenage memories, boys, friends. Tell us about that. Tell us about meeting those people and bringing them into your life, those who are not South African as well.
Wherever we went, all of us really, we adapted fairly quickly. Most places like Czechoslovakia and Tanzania in particular, we had to learn the local languages. In Tanzania, one of the things is the majority of people in our school were Muslim. So when it was Ramadan, we didn't want, Mama would prepare, she was preparing food for us, and we say, no, we don't want to take food. The other children are not eating, the other children are not eating, and all of that. So we were able to adapt, and in some of the areas, there were other children from not just the ANC. There was Frelimo and Pele from Angola, PAC. So we were often a mixture. In Czechoslovakia, there were those from Vietnam and Chile and those Egyptians as well, who were in similar circumstances as us. And in Czechoslovakia, there was mainly children of trade unionists and all of that. Yeah, Cuba, I would say. My favorite country after South Africa that's when we were teenagers. So I was 18 when we went there.
What a place to be a teenager.
Yes.
Cuba, you couldn't have had it any better.
Yeah. Lovely place to be a teenager. Lots of handsome boys, as you can imagine.
I can imagine.
But they were South Africans. The South Africans were going to party schools and all of that, and they would hardly let us have boyfriends who were not South African. You know, South Africans, they were so jealous.
Was that, those, the kids themselves would not let you meet somebody
the other
else.
the other ANC kids.
Yeah.
You know, the ANC kids our age, you know, they always wanted to be with us, and if you've got a boyfriend from another country, it was trouble. But, you know, they behaved themselves and, you know, in the main...
so tell us about meeting your husband then. How did you meet him? You know, was he foisted on you by the other ANC kids, or, you know, did you make your own choice?
Actually,
there?
I met him before we went to Cuba.
Okay.
We used to have political education, and every evening. He used to lead some of the political discussions. I don't know, I just found myself very interested, especially when he's leading. I make sure I'm on time and I'm sitting near him and I'm, you know, watching. Then I realized that I started being concerned about who is cooking, so that if there's somebody who is not cooking well, then I used to start preparing something for him. Then I realized there's something wrong here. But he got me through politics, and I said to him, you know what? I don't want to hear about politics. I told him I used to sit in meetings and all of that. At this stage, I don't want. And then he just sat me down and talked to me until 3 a.m. I remember. He said, you can't afford not to be interested in politics. And then he gave me a long lecture about the struggle all over again, the things that I knew. And then he said, in fact, tomorrow you are leading the discussion and you must talk about Frelimo. I was so scared. But he helped me, and I did it. And, you know, the rest is history. But I was on my way to Cuba then. And then he said, okay. He was 10 years older than I am. Then he said, so you go to Cuba, have all the boyfriends you want, and when you come back, we'll get married.
Oh.
But tell me about all the boyfriends. Then, of course, religiously, I would write letters. You know, there were no phones or things then, at least that way. And I would tell him, and I remember this particular one, I won't mention his name because he's still in South Africa. And he said, no, that relationship, it was about 9 months. He said, no, that's been going too long. I think now you better dump that.
Oh, is it? So he was busy pulling the strings where he was. What a romantic story.
Yeah, exactly.
Mom Gertrude, did you ever question any of your children's choices, especially when somebody is marrying somebody who is within the cause, and you know what that means? You know the hardship that comes with that.
We wanted all our children back home because they had a duty to free their country, free children of their age and other youth, so as to get to South Africa that we are all trying to strive for. So I wouldn't have said, please marry a Cuban or anybody else because those are free. I wouldn't have said that. I encouraged them to get used to our children at home here. And of course, I knew our youth. They were quite open, and there wasn't anything really bad about them that one would say, not so and so because of this. I just left it to their choice. But at the same time, I kept my eye on them, and they were all children to me, and I advised them as I would advise my own son.
And then there was the wedding day. And that fight that you spoke very briefly about, that you fought with your mom. So I want to know more about that, and the suit that OR brought for you. Were you really not speaking to your mom the night before your wedding?
No, we were not on speaking terms.
Because of the suit? Goodness.
But fortunately, she found somebody who adjusted it. So there was peace the following day, because I wore it, and it fitted me well.
And you got married in Zambia?
In Zambia, yes.
Tell us about that, for both of you. I want to know. I mean, it's a very special time for mom and daughter. Fights are part of the territory. Someone is always going to fight. It's par for the course. So just tell us about each of you, your memories of that wedding, and who was there. And, you know, did you at any point wish you were doing this in South Africa and not in Zambia? When
we decided that we were getting married, the other colleagues, you know, the other young people our age, were saying, yeah, you see now, you guys have come here to settle, you're even getting married, and now you want to have babies, and you know, there's a struggle to be fought at home, you're going to forget about the struggle, and so on and so forth. So that was a big thing. But for me, the beautiful memory that I have is that all of the leadership of the ANC was there, except President Mbeki, because he had traveled out of the country. But he spoke to me the day before. That was important to me because it was some kind of affirmation, the fact that I'd taken the right choice, although some people at some stage didn't think I had. And this was one of the things in exile. There were a number of people who thought that my husband was, we used to call them sellouts, that he was working for the enemy and all of that. They came to talk to me, the security people came to talk to me, are you sure this is what you want to do and all of that? And I said to them that, you know what, I'm a kid of the ANC, and if I find that something is wrong, I will know what to do. To their credit, after about a year, they came back and apologized, and then they explained to me why they had thought that was the case. So I love that. I was very fortunate to get married in a home of one of the Zambians who was working at, was it a state house, the President Kaunda's place? So they let us, so we didn't have a house nice enough to get married in.
Whenever any one of us got married, all our people would come together and wish everybody else, goodwill and do whatever they can do. But there wasn't a big amount of spending from us as parents as such.
Okay.
They tried to do the lobola thing, and then so there was people who represented my uncles and aunties, and people who represented his uncles and aunties, and they came home now with to wash the walls and all of that and cook nice food for them. And then when they arrived like 5 minutes late. And secondly, I don't know, somebody cracked a joke outside and then they were laughing. So Uncle Mampuru, he was representing us, and then he got there to the door and he said, "Oh, you come late and you are laughing at us, go back." And they say, no, and we were thinking in the kitchen, no, they can't go back. I mean, they will
all over again.
No, yeah. And no, he sent them back. And then Malurulu, who was representing my late husband's family, said, no, but they said, come back. He said, come back Tuesday at 10. Then she said, 10 o'clock on Tuesday, we're at the office, we're at the ANC office. And then he said, well, you'll choose between the ANC and our daughter. That's up to you. Anyway, they did come on the Tuesday. And
that's a big choice to make. And
Yes.
they chose you,
Yes.
so you can only smile about that. And then came the babies, your sons, and giving birth to your child Khotso in Egypt. I mean, what was that like for you?
That was very special, and I'll always be grateful to many people, at the Egyptians in particular. I remember we had no salaries or anything like that. So Khotso came, and when Khotso came, his dad was in Switzerland at a conference. So I went into hospital. Then, if you're a foreigner, you have to go to a private hospital. You can't go to a public hospital. So even though we were freedom fighters, they took me to a private hospital. And of course, we couldn't afford the private hospital. So I had to stay in hospital even when I could now go home because we had no money to pay.
So you just stayed without...
Yeah.
Were you not scared? I mean, I
was worried, but I knew something would work out. After you've been
something would happen.
So many things,
And what did happen?
Something would work
Who
out.
paid?
My late husband was representing the ANC at the Afro-Asian People's Solidarity Organization. So they put together the funds and did that. But his first clothes, I couldn't even buy like these little socks that the babies just sent, came from East Germany. They brought a little suitcase full of clothes. Yeah. So, there were those really special moments. But I have to tell you how I got to Egypt very quickly.
Please do, yeah.
We were in Zambia, okay? So we get married, and then my late husband, when we just think Tabucho was already in Egypt when we got married. So he came, we got married, and he went back to Egypt. And now I had to have travel papers to go and join him. And I'm expecting. And the doctor kept telling me, if you are here next week, you can't travel. So I went to the ANC, and there was a very nice fellow in the administration. I asked him to write a letter to say I'm a bona fide member of the ANC, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't know why I'm asking for that, so I take that letter, and then I go to the airport. No passport. Yes. No passport. I go to the airport, get in. The thing about the airport in Zambia, actually, there was a portion which was like for the ANC. So we go through there and all of that. So I go into the plane. That plane was going via Nairobi, and I had a extra baggage. So I go, when I get to Nairobi, they put, okay, stand this line, those are going to Cairo. So I stand there. And then when I'm standing there, there was a South African guy in front of me, a white South African guy. And he had he had the excess baggage, but they had kind of let him go with it. So these Kenyans, it was also like this is an apartheid person or something. So they were really rough on him. So I said to the guy, because he was saying, where is the over thing baggage? You know what you do when you've got a baggage that's too heavy.
Like an overflow.
I haven't traveled for them, I've forgotten. So I said to him, are you asking for something like this? He said, yes, ma'am. So you go forward. I have no visa. This guy forgot to check my passport, my visa, and everything. I just showed him that thing, and then he said, okay, no, you go forward. You go to the plane. Now I'm in the plane. I didn't want the plane to land. Then when I landed, I got there, and then they said to me, passport, no passport, visa, no visa. Even they asked for the visa. I didn't have where to put the visa. And I just said to this guy, no, my husband is here, and actually, didn't they tell you I'll be arriving? No, the Minister of Foreign Affairs knows I'm arriving. I didn't even know the name of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Then they asked for my husband. Unfortunately, I had the number. So they called him, and he could not believe I was in Egypt. And I knew that being that pregnant, they would not put me back on the flight. That's how I go to Egypt.
Now, this is one of the things that I really feel hurt when I think of what our youth do. They claim that they are now leading. They forget where they are coming from.